Welcome everyone to the Island Life podcast, where we journey onto the island of discovery to relive some of the best and worst moments of Survivor. My name is Will, an experienced Survivor fan, 49 seasons deep, and I'll be your guide. And joining us on this adventure is our rising Survivor fan, with 14 seasons under her belt, Edge.
Hello. As a pop quiz, tell me a family member of mine, a name of them. No, I'm kidding.
And of course, we also have our Survivor newbie, the brand new Survivor fan, who just finished his 6th season of the show. I give you Survivor F.
What's going on? Still a newbie, huh? One step closer to becoming the ultimate Survivor master.
You are one step closer. I mean, you're putting in the good work. I have a good idea of how to evaluate your progress, which we'll get into later.
Please, no family pop quiz.
But yes, so we did it. We have gotten through season 49, the last one before the big one. So I think all attention on this season, on this episode, on Island Life here, because season 50 is gonna get like so much time in the limelight. People probably have mentally already moved on, to be honest. So on this show, at least, we're gonna get 49 everything it deserves, for better, for worse. And so now that we know everything that happened, where's your head at? What are you feeling? What are your emotions? The season's over. You've seen all there is to see. How do you feel?
I'm mixed, I feel like throughout this season, I've been kind of like frustrated with certain players and how they were playing and frustrated on the mindset and thought. And I feel like a lot of times I feel like with this season in particular, I just felt like, what are they doing? Like, what's going on? I can't believe these people are getting away with it. And these people are doing this and making them get away with it. So I felt kind of flustered and frustrated a little bit, I'll be honest. But the end, it makes me feel good. I feel satisfied because of the winner, but not because of the season on its own. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like some people might call a season based off the winner or a season based off the entire season. But to me, I think the season itself was okay. But the winner, it made me happy and I'm okay now. I'm more okay than okay, I guess.
Yeah, I'm also kind of just, if I was to rank this, like this is one of the more middle of the road seasons. It's had some high highs, but it's also had some low lows. And as Ange pointed out too, I also liked how it resolved itself at the end, who ended up becoming the eventual winner. Felt it was well deserved. So, tip your hat off to otherwise a pretty good season. I've had some other seasons where I'm more engaged in the storylines, how things are going. This one had moments, there were pieces where there's potential, but with just how it started, things weren't too great with how one of the tribes, the Kaylee tribe, aka the Blue tribe, had just a poor showing. And generally I know you can't help but control that sort of thing. That's just how the season can go on. But it just feels more like enjoyable to watch a season where it doesn't feel like one team in particular is getting their face kicked in right at the very start. So I think early on there were some low moments where it did manage to recapture some of that Survivor magic further down the road. But, with that and a couple of misplays that I felt happened all throughout the season, it left me wanting more, but still gave me moments of satisfaction. Had some really good challenges, enjoyable challenges, hype moments. So all in all, I would say it was a pretty decent season.
I'm satisfied. I think when it was all said and done, like I got like the minimum that I needed. And what that is witnessing what was a pretty complete game from Savannah, who by the way is our sole survivor. Well deserved in my opinion, but more than just deserving. I felt she overall an excellent job. And I think that finishing the job on that uh, that left me feeling good, and but I do agree, like, what we really were missing was clear strategies. When players diverted from the conventional wisdom of what you would think they would do, too often we didn't get a compelling reason why. Or like what they did the next episode called into question, well, why did you do that other thing in the previous episode then if you're going to do that this episode? So I do agree that that was not enjoyable. My lowest low was the second swap too. Like already the
Yes.
first swap felt unsatisfying. Only to then after 2 episodes swap again. It was not great.
Agreed.
Although without the second swap, I mean there's no season. We don't get the entire through line of the merge, which is Savannah, Rizzo, and Sophie. Sophie B. So credit question mark to Survivor? I don't know. I mean, I'm
No.
not sure if that's a positive or not, but
Ugh.
no, you don't think so?
I don't like it. I don't like the second merge because in the end, I feel like it rewards those that were not doing good. I guess, like, if I was in that tribe, I would be happy that Survivor did that, but if I was on the other tribe, I'd be very unhappy because you're killing it, you're doing super well, and then boom, this happens, and then here we are, you're okay. Um, like, you can I guess, like, we love a underdog, we love a from the bottom to the top type of story, but at the same time, it's very frustrating to see a good team like Hina, like, to me, I'm like, the original Hina was amazing, they were great, they were good, and then it just kind of broke apart, like, very quickly. Like, could it be is that they couldn't outsmart and outwit and they could not adapt to the new merge? Maybe, but I also think that Survivor, they're constantly changing it up and, like, making it so if you are falling hard, they will hold you for another couple of episodes to push you through. And I don't know. To me, I don't like it personally.
Yeah,
It,
but sorry, go ahead, F.
I was just gonna say, like the one thing that I felt just was more noticeable that I think I appreciated, while we did have a consistent winner this season across challenges, it felt like a lot of challenges where puzzles were involved. It just felt like pretty much whoever was competing was neck and neck and could go right down the wire. And I don't know if it was just like this is the recent season, so it's just more clear in my mind, but it felt like that was more consistent in this season. Like most challenges had some form of anyone potentially could win this challenge outside of the challenges where Savannah's just clearly dominating, or Soph's picking up some steam, or Steven's winning here and there. But I did enjoy the aspect of it gave you the opportunity of, oh, honestly, anyone actually has the chance to win this. It's not like someone's out of it completely. I felt that
I
more in
get what
this
you're
season
saying,
than
yeah.
in other seasons.
Hey, we rag on the repeated use of obstacle course plus block puzzle, but one aspect of that type of challenge is it makes it pretty likely that you're gonna get at least 2 people that look like they're close at the end on the puzzle.
Yeah.
So that is a point in the favor of those kind of challenges.
Love to watch a good comeback, and it opens the door up to that sort of thing.
Um, but do you agree that like like Savannah ultimately did like a remarkable job? Because I was very impressed once I've seen
Yeah.
the full picture.
Yeah, she was definitely a bright spot this season. Things were not looking good for her even post merge. She was part of a smaller majority, the minority, I should say. And despite that, despite the fact that some people would question her social game, some people just did not like the way that she played, she kept herself in the game, right? Because she's a fighter, she kept herself afloat, winning some, hard endurance challenges and making sure that not just herself, she's protecting the people that she's working with. And I think that's commendable. She had a story where, she mentioned that she got let go of her previous position. She was a former reporter. So she can look back and say they lost themselves a survivor winner. So I did like her story. I did like her competitiveness. Sometimes for some people it got to be too much, but I have nothing but respect for people who work hard and do it all, put it all on the line and do it to win the game. And she certainly showed that.
Now, do you feel the same way about her allies, Rizzo and eventually Sophie?
For the most part, yes. I think one of my gripes this season has been, and I've vocalized this to both of you before, that it just feels like no one is challenging Rizzo. Don't get me wrong. I think Rizzo was, I agree. I think he was one of the more strategic players, if not the most strategic player this season. It's just that it felt amplified because the people around him were just not putting any pressure on him. And I don't know if that's necessarily due to Savannah being with him or if it's, him just talking himself out of being a threat, but that was a very puzzling thing for me during the middle of parts of this season where found myself thinking time after time, why is no one at least trying to you're not even necessarily trying to get him out, but like, why is no one trying to form a strategy where they bait out the idol? Like they're not even discussing that sort of thing.
For real.
Soph, on the other hand, I think she had a phenomenal game as well. I found myself wondering in the end if Savannah didn't make it to final three, I definitely could have seen Sophie winning this as well. She has a really good underdog story. Started out in that Kaylee tribe I was describing where things from the get-go were not right. They were losing challenges left and right. And towards the final episode, ironically enough, to beat Savannah, who had the lead in that final challenge, she made the ultimate comeback and not only prevented Savannah from breaking the women's record for challenge wins, but then also cemented herself in the final three. So I really liked her game as well. She had a much stronger social game, I would say, than Savannah did.
I think what's frustrating up to me is like seeing Sage throughout this game. Like I get like I feel like in a world outside of like Survivor, I think I would like someone like Sage in terms of she like kind of makes her seem like this weird, like quote unquote quirky, like kind of person that wants to be accepted, you know? But in the game, it just felt like all she does is like push blame and then when it doesn't go her way, and then, like, it just didn't make sense when she in the final tribal, you know, like, I felt like her ways of fighting against, like or proving that she's a good player went against her than help her, and I felt like this entire time, like, she didn't help herself much, and I just didn't like, it just I just remember the line when she was talking to Soph when Jawan went out, and she was clearly upset, and she was like, "You just handed Savannah $1,000,000." And, like, later on, she even says, like, "Hey, I called it, I said" it was like, "Then why did you not try to take her out?" Why did you take out what is going on? Like, why didn't you take her out when you could have or when there was a possibility? Or take out their trio? Why in the end, the final 4, 3 out of the 4 people were part of the trio? Like, how does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you just described one of my frustrations with this season where there were a lot of moments which just left your head scratch. Like you'd be wondering what exactly the group's thinking, the broader group, and why, like, are they not seeing the same threats that we, the viewers, are? It's very puzzling why you're allowing the group that should be in the minority post merge to gain power, build relationships, maintain all these advantages, which to their credit, some of them they didn't know, like the knowledge is power that Sophie had. But there's essentially no pressure being applied to any of them. They're instead what they're doing is infighting and eliminating each other. And some of it was very puzzling because, as you said, Sage and Jawan for the longest time I recall wanted Savannah out, and as a byproduct of that, wanted Rizzo out, and yet they made it to the very end, which they've had opportunities to eliminate them. At moments, I will say that it probably wasn't best for their game, but like I definitely saw opportunities this season for either of them to be eliminated, and it's just it for Savannah. I will say she just played a really good game, so she was able to get around it. For Rizzo, obviously he had an idol, but he also was like repeatedly calling out that he had an idol. And I just felt that no one challenging him was just such a big mistake there.
I feel
I
like
think
oh, yeah, you go ahead.
he just both the all three of them just played it perfect for the group that was around them. The boy who cried wolf strategy keeps you on your toes enough that no one wants to get idled out. Whereas if that idol was secret, then they would have happily tried to get him out, and either he would have gone home because he didn't play it, or he would have played it, saved himself, become the biggest threat because of that, and then be the target next time and for the rest of the season. I thought that there was a couple different times that Rizzo successfully wormed his way out of danger, even before Tribal. There was a time where, even though Alex did put himself in some danger by playing both sides, in reality, if you recall, Rizzo just makes up a story. He just starts telling people that Alex is shady and saying things when that was not actually, he did not know that for a fact. And that actually worked to persuade people to focus on Alex instead of him. Or that time when they split, like I think it was after the merge, but then they split them up anyway, and like half of them are going to tribal council. Rizzo's dead to rights, and then uh MC starts a chain reaction of paranoia that eventually circles back uh to her getting voted out. When it probably really should have been Rizzo. And then for Savannah's part, the more often she won immunity, every time she did that, she took away the option to split the vote. Because obviously, what you normally would do, you got a lot of people and they only got 2 or 3. Well, you just split the vote, you're fine. But you can't because Savannah, one of them is safe, basically. The biggest mistake, honestly, is probably people not caring about Sophi S. Because the solution could have been split the vote between Rizzo and Sophi, but sorry, not Sophi S, Sophi B. Uh, they could have done that, but I think they just felt like, oh, she's coming from KLA, like she's got no like serious allies. Like why spend time trying to get her out? But if they had done that, that would have ruined everything because with only 2 votes, the power of Rizzo and Savannah would have been way less. But credit to both of them for actually even getting her as an ally in the first place. So I was very impressed by Rizzo and Savannah, and eventually Sophie B. Although Sophie B. then like broke my heart by horrible misplays at the end.
Yeah, I feel like to your point though, like that's one way to look at it, but I still think you can go through that plan. I don't remember how all the votes ended up, like in terms of the vote count, but like there definitely were some majority votes there where okay, you could split the vote. It doesn't. If Savannah is not someone you can vote because she won the challenge, don't lock Rizzo's vote behind that. You could still split the vote with someone else that the majority of the people want to vote out, right? Like if you know that Savannah is going to be voting for such and such person, and you have people in the majority that are voting for such and such person, just have another group of people outside of Rizzo vote for Rizzo, and if he doesn't use his idol, he risks going home.
Well, the
It's
key
I
is because there's 3 of them. If you want to split the vote, you need at least 6 votes because you need 3 votes to match theirs, and then another 3 votes in whoever you're actually targeting. Um, which they had because they had 7, and then even after that they had 6, so they could have done it. Although one of those might have been the time when the tribe was split in half. Um, but they could have just voted without splitting the vote. They could have targeted Sophie B. That was certainly possible
yeah.
because what the chances that Rizzo's going to, if Rizzo uses it, he would use it on himself. Um, I don't know. I think what carried the season for me is not taking Rizzo seriously in the beginning, and then thinking that Savannah has too few allies to make it, but then both of them forcing me to respect them by just how often things worked out for them. And then by the end, obviously, one of them wins.
Yeah.
By the way,
It
memorability check here. I'm gonna read off to you the cast,
okay.
and you can tell me if you remember anything about them. Uh, so I assume we all remember the final five because we all saw them in this episode. So I'm gonna put them aside. Uh, Shannon, do you remember Shannon?
I
Yes,
do.
religious
She was
girly
the
pop.
the yoga girl,
Was she
morning
not
yoga girl.
religious girl? Oh, was it another girl?
She's both.
Yes, religious girl that Sage hated.
Yep, yep. Uh, Nate.
Papa,
Rad dad.
you like
Scruffy
Rad
Papa?
beard.
dad.
He's got
Yes.
the socks, and I guess there was some infighting for a bit there with him and Rizzo for like a challenge. I remember him like yelling at Rizzo or something like that.
Was getting dad. He
Eh,
was like, "Oh, I'm kind of like weird because he's like the dad versus everyone so young and hip." And then he's like
He
Yeah,
was like
old.
worked in
she's like
film
a
or something
victim
like that.
of when Jawan and Sage do betray them, they deem the safer target to be Nate out of fear that Rizzo might use the idol,
Oh my
which
god.
is interesting. That
I
that could have
just
changed everything.
I just can't handle this
Um,
whole idol thing. Like I just don't. I don't.
I assume you guys love Steven, so I'm sure you remember
Oh, my
Steven.
astronaut man.
Yep.
I
We
love
got
him.
Sophie S.
I do know I really like Sophie S. I don't know if the general population do. I liked her a lot. I thought she was like a breath of fresh air for me. Um I think I also liked her because like, Sage didn't like her. Maybe that's one of the reasons why, but, I really like Sophie. I don't know why she was kinda twisted out to be such a threat in the end like, in that during that time.
Yeah, right?
It's just so weird to me because like, yes, she was really good at challenges, but I didn't see her, like, that good at challenges compared to, like, Steven was winning, Savannah's doing good, like, I didn't see her that big of a challenge, but everyone just used that I know, like, people use that as an excuse, but I feel like people were to the point of being like, she's gonna win," and I'm like, "What are you guys talking about?"
Maybe it's one of
Yeah,
those things where like people were saying that Rachel might win in 47, and we're like at the time like really this person. Maybe they felt that way about Sophie S.
Maybe, but I liked her a lot, and I feel like she was low key villainized by other people. Like
yeah.
sometimes people think like they know you better than you know yourself. I feel like this was given a lot of that. And I feel like Sage does that a lot, where she makes it seem like she knows you more than you know yourself. And I don't dig with that, to be honest. And that makes Sage icky to me. Like it's not the fact that like, I love someone that's like weird and kind of quirky, but I feel like she was kind of mean girl.
Yeah, I don't have too much that I remember about Sophie early on, and I think that's part of why it becomes surprising that she's seen as such a big threat, like in the middle of the game, because you're then trying to remember, like, okay, what else did she do?
Yeah,
Like,
she
is it
literally has
stuff like
no
off
alliance.
screen that
Yeah.
is it like stuff off screen that she's doing that people are just seeing her as a major threat? But I agree. I think that she was otherwise just like as a person like on the island, she was a pretty chill person,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't think I've ever seen her even frowning. Like in most scenes you would see her, she's generally just smiling.
That she
So
is.
More
She's very
like
nice.
determined, I would say.
Yes, she is. Again, she's like a breath of fresh air for me. So like I feel like she's never been mean or anything, but yet she was like made to be mean. Like some people people the way they talk about her is like, "Oh, she's
mhm.
just this strategic like this." Because it's like there's a fine line of being like strategic in a game of Survivor versus being like shady. And I feel like
Yeah.
there's a fine line to it, difficult to determine. But I didn't see her being like that. If anything, she literally had nobody. I think nobody wanted Savannah kind of talked about in this thing being like, I wanted to work with you. Is either we're together or we're going against each other. But it's like I don't I didn't see her being close to anybody. To me, it felt like she was always the odd one out, and I think she mentioned that too. She's always the last one out of an alliance. So how does that make her a good, like, a threatening player?
Well, part of it probably is strategy too. Like if you're in the game, like part of the thing is to increase other people's threat levels and decrease your own, even if like regardless of what you're doing,
That's true,
just so
yeah.
you put pressure on others. She just was unfortunate in the sense that, yeah, like it doesn't seem like she had ties to anyone, kind of like you talk about, like with Alex, where he's playing the middle. Didn't even really seem like she was doing that, especially early on. She's just kind of there in the deciding vote up until she eventually gets voted out. But it was just it was an interesting escalation to see. Okay, wow, she's a major threat, and I don't know, like she just won one or two challenges. I feel like a lot of times people watching Survivor are very loose with how they throw out the term like challenge beast. I think you got to remember that, like, as you win and advance further and further into Survivor, you decrease the amount of competition. And sometimes the people you're competing against are just not maybe as physically athletic, and like they're just less, like they're less put up in a position to win. If they're not winning in the beginning, consistently not winning, they're not going to be winning if they're like more and more tired later in the game.
That's definitely true. I mean, I'm sure, like for the people on the island, they have the ability to remember every challenge, including all the pre-merge team challenges. So they have more to go off of than I think we do, where we're just counting individual challenge wins. So that they'll notice better than us. You guys had a lot to say about these people. I was just gonna just zoom through this, but that's fine. Um, since they were on the jury, you know MC and you know
Ugh,
Alex. We just talked about Alex a
MC.
second ago.
I
But I
honestly wish
really,
MC made it farther. Ugh, I wanna
I
I want MC. Ugh, I'm sorry.
I actually
I'm not
don't.
over
She
it.
just
What?
she like also similar to Sophie B crushed my heart with just an awful performance in that one journey with Nate. You know, she
Oh,
just
yeah.
like loses her cool, like she loses her strategic mindset and just gets tricked in a way that shouldn't have worked. And then also somehow where it should be very easy to make it, Rizzo like allows things to spiral out of control that one time in the split tribal. Um, what I wanted to get to is how many of the pre-merge people do you remember? And I knew you had feelings about Shannon, so I gave that a freebie. But there are,
Jason,
let's see,
remember Jason, the guy
one,
who didn't do
two,
anything?
I very true. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You need to give me 6 people. Jason is one of them.
Okay, so Jason's one.
Jeremiah.
Yeah, Jeremiah. Just remember the Kaylee tribe. So Jeremiah, Jake.
Jake,
Um,
yes.
boy, who's the first person who got eliminated? I don't remember the first person who got
Nicole.
eliminated.
Nicole.
Yeah,
No?
Nicole's right.
Yes!
Yep.
like-
Okay.
and
She
then
had the
Matt,
bandana.
Matt with Jason,
Who the heck is Matt?
Matt, you're right. You were
the
right.
old guy
Old guy. Oh, yes!
with the
Yes!
like the
Okay.
dreadlocks,
Yes, yes,
the
I
guy who
remember
could make
him.
the campfire.
You
More
missed
people to
one.
remember? Dang.
One more. Okay.
Let me think.
I believe the second person to be
Can you
voted
give
out.
us a hint in terms of what tribe they're a part of?
Probably
Uh,
Blue.
they're the second person we voted out.
Second person. Okay, hold on. So
Oh, I know! The lady with the blonde hair,
Kaylee.
kinda like Sue 2.0.
Oh, the
Annie!
singer, the singer lady, right?
Wow, Annie, you got it. You got
Yes!
it. Yep, she's impressive. Okay, so what I was trying to see is here is like you could judge a season as a whole on like how memorable the entire cast is, and hey, I mean you remembered everybody at the very least. You got their names all and like a little bit about them. Um,
We
I
try,
didn't have
we
all their
try.
names. I think that's more Ange, but
well, you know we work together on this podcast.
See,
We all friends
I
here.
yeah, you know, but
Uh,
I will say, if I was asked a question about family members on the tribal, I would have slayed. I just have to say that. I think that I would be really good. I would be, like, telling your backstory. Like, in the 1st grade, this started. You'll be like,
all
"Oh,
right.
wow, I
So
can't believe it."
I was gonna hold off this question myself up until the end, but since we're already just talking about the contestants this season, if you were to guess anyone would be returning in the next season, season 50, who would you guess would be
Oh,
returning?
hands down Rizzo. Like, there's no way
Rizzo?
Rizzo's not coming back. He made Jeff Probst said Riz God. Like,
he
that in
did.
itself, he won $1,000,000 from that. Like, he won just by doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see Rizzo, and I could probably also see Sophie,
Ugh,
the
which one?
Kaylee Sophie, Blue Sophie.
Oh, okay. No, I don't want that. If they put you know what would really piss me off? If they have Rizzo and Savannah back. That would take me out. That would be the same thing as Kyle and, Camilla. That would I'm sorry. That would be crazy. I don't think they should have this is not a hard take, I don't think. So, I don't think they should have any winners for 50. Or they should have just done winners only, period, you know? Either winners only,
Yeah.
period, or do 2 seasons, a special of winners only, period, and then the other one being returning people that didn't win. I just feel like it's so weird to put, like, winners and also winners with your ally. Like, if
Yeah.
Rizzo and Savannah comes back for 50, are they not gonna be working together? Like, are you gonna assume they don't work together? They're not best friends? Like, we don't watch the same thing? I don't wanna watch the same season over again. I wanna watch some variety.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I agree with you 100%. I feel like it would make more sense if you're gonna include someone from a season and you're including multiple people from that season to have it potentially be people who we probably haven't seen together, but are just interesting survivor candidates.
I still feel like maybe Jake could make it back, 'cause he, had the whole
I'd be
story with his
surprised. I'd be surprised about that one.
he got bit by a snake, That's effing
You think
rad.
it's
No, I'm kidding.
you you think so you think it could be Rizzo and Jake. Those are the
Yes,
two you
if I
think?
had to pick 2 people, yes. I would be pissed if it's Savannah, but knowing Survivor, they're gonna do that. I just have just like how they did bring back Kyle and Camilla
Jake
for last
Jake
season.
would be interesting.
Jake would
That
be.
yeah, Jake would be interesting because it's like, oh, like yeah, my wife gave birth and I kind
Yes.
of missed it and I had to go back so I got to see the birth of my child.
Yes,
And now
yes.
that I'm back for this next season, now I'm a dad. So
And
now
now I understand.
I'm the new rad dad. I took
Yes.
over Nate's role.
And now I understand the importance of vision, Like, I cannot
Mhm.
imagine not seeing my children, so I gotta do it for my is it his dad that has glaucoma?
I don't
Yes.
remember that.
Yeah, losing his eyesight. Yes, yes. Um, I well, first of all, since we wanted to record immediately, we don't know if during the reunion show Jeff just told everybody. So the world probably knows who's the 2 people are at this point.
Mhm.
Really?
I agree. It is very, very likely that they'll pick Savannah and Rizzo
That's so
for
I don't like
the
that.
reasons you stated, Ange. Um, I think I would interest me more if they put in 2, like, enemies from the same season.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So just like people who don't work together or like you
I
might
don't
not
know.
see them around with each
Yeah.
other.
Mhm. I would love to see
However,
Steven
because
back.
Yeah, that would be a good combo actually now that I think
Yeah,
about
but
it.
they don't
Steven
do that
and
because they hate us.
Rizzo.
well,
Actually,
I feel like
I'm not sold on Rizzo.
naturally, you'd probably if you're gonna do villain, you or not villain, but you'd probably do Savannah and Sophie, who although are allies in the end, uh,
Nah.
like, were not like, at least Sophie did not adhere to the alliance, whereas Savannah surprisingly was very, very loyal. Uh, so that's
I
if they're gonna go that way, I think that's what they would do, but that's not how they've casted the rest of 50, would seem, from the new era,
Yeah, it's
at
I
bull.
least.
I think if you yeah, like while I personally am reluctant to take a winner, like Savannah, I think she did deserve the win here. Like thinking back on it, it would be very interesting to see a combination of Savannah and Steven. Like even beyond Rizzo. I think that would be an interesting one.
Steven, I feel like I'm trying to but the thing is I want season 50 in theory is like you want both someone who represents your like you think back on the season, it's like, oh yeah, that person. And then also someone who we like was entertaining too. So you want both. And I mean the whole season ended up revolving around basically our final four, to be honest. Plus, who else would I throw in there? And I think like Jawan, I felt like made more of an impact than Steven made. So
What?
it's oh yeah, like I'm gonna
Oh, we
remember
got to talk
Jawan
about that.
Oh, wait, we gotta unpack this.
much more than
Explain.
Yeah.
Steven.
He
Jawan
stole
is the
stuff?
reason any
Stealing
of
stuff
this
does not
happened.
matter. What do you mean?
Stealing
Tell
stuff?
me.
I
No. Like Jawan is the reason anything happened for actually wanting to go against the alliance in the first place. Otherwise, what actually happens is uh the 4-person alliance plus Sage, basically all 6 of them stick together, and they're not the minority. It's not like an underdog story for the whole season. Instead, it's the majority story. Probably at some point, like there's infighting. Basically, that like they get the Hina story instead of Hina. But because Jawan does go with Sage and they work together, it sets up Rizzo and Savannah being by themselves. And
No.
he had great confessionals, talking to us as well. Action like just enough, both entertaining emotionally and like explained what his plans were and then actually executed those plans. Uh, Steven never got the chance to really do any of his plans because the target like no group could ever get assembled. His best chance was with Joanne's alliance, with the bottoms up alliance.
I mean,
So yeah.
you're advocating for why I actually would want Steven to come back. Like I feel like this is where like all our perspectives are very interesting, because I would love to hear like, like you're mentioning Jawan, and for me, Jawan is someone who, yes, he's entertaining, he's fun to follow,
Mhm.
like he's probably just someone who would be fun to chill out, like hang out with
Yes,
in real
yes.
life. Early on, like I had a really positive impression of him, like wearing the overalls, joking around about that. But Jawan came across as someone, as you went into the season, who was just making more emotional decisions rather than necessarily strategic decisions.
I
And
agree.
if I'm watching Survivor, like I want to see like, okay, like I want to see a good strategic game. I want to see someone who's like making the right move, making the right relationships. To your point, you recognize that Steven didn't necessarily have the best opportunities. He got screwed over in certain regards. But that's exactly why I would want to see him, like, if he came back for a future season, you would see how things would be set up differently. Maybe if the environment around him was a little bit more forgiving, right? Like, because he did make good strategic moves. He was competitive in challenges. He just got the
Mhm.
short end of the stick on things that he had zero control over. So it's like, and even like the contestants themselves saw it. They, like Sage, for example, called out that, if we didn't eliminate Steven then, while I still think Savannah probably would have won it over him, like she saw Steven as a threat. I felt towards the end, the only person who probably posed a threat to her was Steven, just based on everything that had happened in the season. So he became like a major what if for me. And I think if I'm watching a season of Survivor where like if my biggest gripe is I don't want people making mistakes or blunders, I'm choosing Steven ahead of Jawan. Like even Jawan's
Mhm.
final pick, he just voted based on his emotions. He didn't necessarily vote
Yeah.
based on
And
who
he
was
said
like the
that's
best
how he
survivor.
is though. Yeah, he did. He's just I'm a feely guy and I love that. Like I love that about him, but that didn't make him a good player. I felt like if anything, it hindered him. And also like you mentioned like that I do love that we all have kind of different thoughts about it because it makes it just way more exciting. But my you were saying like Jawan is the one that kind of like pushed for this whole like split so then he was able to work with um old is it old Tina? I don't remember. But like with Sage and then forcing Rizzo and Savannah to be in the bottom working together. But they've been working together like before that. They were together. They were the ones that were always together. They were just laughing, hanging out. They were living their best life together. And from the moment like Savannah didn't like Jawan. Like, it is, like I feel like from the get-go, she did not like him. It's just the way he is to her or the way he stole, like, her bag, took her water bottle. She felt like he was annoying and just someone to take out. So I don't think him making those moves were more, like, game changing as a more so he was forced to do that because I feel like we might not see the part of him being like, I don't think this is working, so I'm gonna change it up. Because if it was genuine, if Savannah was treating him right and this like relationship of this tribe was good, I don't think it would have happened. I don't think he would have made any of those moves because I feel like a lot of times in tribal, Jawan makes these faces of like, I'm thinking. Oh, what's going on? What did you say? Oh my gosh. And like but I also don't see him making any moves at all. He really does. You're right. He does go with his heart, which I love. He's a sweetie pie, and I feel like in real life we would chat it up. You know, he's a big Marvel guy. I'm a big Marvel girly pop. I feel like I would love to chat up with him, but unfortunately, I don't find Jawan better than Steven in this game. I feel like Steven has done more, and I also am a big person of second chances, what ifs, multi-universes here, speaking of Marvel. So in my mind, I want to see Steven get a second chance. And so without the whole, like, I want him to see, versus in Jawan's thing, I just don't see how it would change anymore, to be honest, if I see Jawan back.
I guess one distinction is season 50 isn't called Survivor Second Chances. It's more like, well, it's called In the Hands of the Fans, but it's more, yeah, like I'm reading it as an all-star season. So I'm not like, I don't see it as a season, this guy showed potential but didn't get the chance. I'm going to give him a chance. No, no, no. You need to show me you did the thing. You've earned your status, and as reward, I'm putting you on this season. That's the frame of reference I think I'm doing. And so that's why I feel that Jawan actually impacted the game. When I say that he set up Rizo and Savannah, not for them to be an alliance, but for them to be the minority. And that is the entire post-merge storyline, is them being in the minority. Steven, there was no storyline because every single vote, something new was happening. So it just never. And then the one time he had a strategy, it failed because he was unable to persuade Sage and Kristina and technically Sophi to actually align with him. And that resulted in getting voted out. So
Oh, let
when
me
we have Survivor Second Chances, which by the way, that is the name of a season, so this would be like Second Chances 2 or Second Chances 3. When we have that season, then yeah, I'm good with Steven on that season.
let me ask
But
you this. This is not even like necessarily just like a second. I'm looking at it in terms of like who are the best contestants. I want to see the best of the best compete against each other. And I understand for the fans, they might go for like entertainment and other things. You know, it's a group. It's like a popular vote, so it can go any way, right? There's no real like criteria behind it. They could choose the person who might have gotten eliminated first in a season, right? But I'm just like, I find myself wondering for someone like Jawan that like, what did I see about him this season that like, if he comes back for another season, like makes him someone who potentially could win the game? Like, could he go far? Sure. But like, I don't even think he could win the game if he came back for another season. Could he prove me wrong? Yeah, but like a lot of his play style, you had pointed out that like, okay, like he put them in the minority. Sure. But what did they do with that? That minority ended up making it to the very end, right? Like, and the person that he worked with, Sage, made some like, with him, they made some very oddball decisions too. So it's like, from an entertainment standpoint, yes, I feel like he was more entertaining to follow and watch at times. But if I'm just watching the game and I'm seeing, okay, like who's the best of the best, who's competitive in these challenges, who can do what with the least amount that they have, Steven has that. Like I don't even fully know what Steven's game is right now, right? Like most of the situations he's been in, his back has been up against the wall. Even the time he got eliminated, he might not even have gotten eliminated because the people who voted him out, like they didn't actually have a, like was he a threat? Yes, but there were bigger threats there. And if they thought about it and if they were thinking ahead, he had an opportunity to stay in the game. So part of that, you could say, okay, lack of social game. But I just see that not even necessarily like as a what if. It's like we haven't fully explored what else he's capable of. He's someone who has done good jobs and challenges. The times that he's been around groups of people, he's been a very likable person. He meets the criteria for someone who could potentially, for me at least, who could go all the way to the end with essentially an all-around skill set of being good socially, being good at challenges, being cutthroat when he needs to potentially, having a strategic game. And as I've said before in the earlier episode where he got eliminated, I don't think he got eliminated due to any of his own shortcomings. It's just the vote did not go his way. And at least in Kristina, like, I don't know why she voted him out. That made no sense.
All fair points. I'm gonna just agree to disagree for this. Although to be
No,
clear,
I'm
I
not
have
trying to
Savannah
convince
and
you otherwise.
Rizzo.
It's good to
I've
have different perspectives.
I have Savannah and Rizzo like on one tier of like strategic player, and then there's a huge gap before anybody else.
Yeah,
And then you can start lumping in, um, for me, Sophie B is in there. I still have, I think then another gap. Then I'm gonna put
sure.
Jawan and Sage. Then probably actually Jawan, Sage, and Sophie S. I think all of them explained plans of theirs, and not all of them worked, but they actually had explained. And then it's kind of everybody else for me with probably Jason at the bottom because you may
Yeah.
criticize Kristina's decisions, but Jason had no decision. He just
I was gonna say that there's two people this season that stick out in terms of like I don't even know what their win condition would be if they made it to the very end, and that's Jason and Kristina. Like I don't know what their game plan is exactly.
sure, yeah. There's a lot of non-Savannah talk going on right now, so let's go back to our sole survivor.
Mhm.
How do you feel she did at Final Tribal with the various questions she got from the jury?
I think she stayed true to herself. She stayed real, which is exactly how she is throughout this entire game. I feel like throughout this entire game, which catches people off guard and it is a little bit, bad taste in your mouth sometimes, is the fact that she's very straightforward. And that's was how she was. And, it kind of like it was one of the questions being like, "Who did you come here to play for?" Or like, what the kind of like a general idea, like, "Why are you here?" Like, "Who are you winning for?" A lot of people would classically say, "Hi, I'm here for my mom or my dad or my grandma or someone I played for, I watched Survivor with." But she was very true to herself. She didn't say like, "Hey, I'm playing for my family." She was like, "I'm playing for me. I'm playing for past me, future me. This is $1 million is a big deal. I'm playing for me." And it's real. It's realistic. It's true. And I feel like a lot of times I think people I'm not saying people do it. I'm just saying people sell the story, this sob story of like, I'm doing it for my mom who's at home watching me and so proud of me, which I love. This is a great story, but she was real. And I could respect that. I think throughout the game she's been true to herself and there's no BS with her. And I think she did really well throughout it. Although it might not have gone well with certain people, I think Sage did worse. So she worked out. It worked out for her.
Yeah, I agree with all those points. I think with Savannah, it's she wasn't trying to go for how do I be mass appealing and just make sure I get every jury member's votes. It's more how like if I come across as selfish, then that's who I am. And if that's who I am, this is what I need to show the judges. And I'm not afraid to speak my mind. If there's something where I feel like something has been misstated about me, again, I'll speak up. I won't. I'm not going to be afraid to be vocal. And I like how real she was. She was sent to a fire making challenge where she faced off against Rizzo, and you could see that she was not confident in it. As someone who's winning challenges, otherwise doing pretty good, even losing out in that final challenge to Sophie, she she was looking at it from the sense that Sophie, Rizzo, and I could make it to the final three. So like, why is Sophie even putting me out there? Like, she might be leaving me high and dry. That to me tells me that while yes, there's aspects of her where she is self-confident, she's not self-confident to the point of just utter cockiness, right? She understands where her weaknesses lie. And I think part of the thing is like, she's explaining her background. I was let go as a reporter. That's probably been weighing on her mind, trying to figure out like, okay, how do I value myself as a person? How do I value like what I can provide? How do I keep moving forward when it seems like the world is trying to work against me? And that showed up in her game. So I liked what she represented, like the raw, like competitive nature of someone to be able to keep pushing forward despite the adversity, despite people maybe not liking you, but all at the same time having a positive mindset about things. I don't remember her breaking down too much this season. She had emotional moments, but I think mentally she's been a pretty strong contestant. So I have nothing but respect for her game. I think she had a really strong season.
I thought she avoided any devastating mistakes during Final Tribal. Like, nothing went horribly wrong. Even in a no-win situation, like when Kristina asks, "Can I think you didn't play a good social game, so I want you to try to name one family member of all of us." I mean, there's no coming back unless, like, you just happen to know, unless you know, that answer, which you're being asked because you don't, so you're not gonna know the answer. There's not a good way to go about it, and I thought she avoided, like, what she could have done is kind of fought back against the question or refused to try, be like, "Why would you ask me that? There's no reason." Like, that would have been pretty bad, but
Well, she kind of
she
did.
tries.
She did
Well,
tell
she says, "I
Kristina that I
can't
don't
do
know.
it." Yeah, she did. What I mean is she could have been like, "Why would you even ask me that?" Like, I
Oh,
disagree with
gotcha.
the concept of the entire question,
Yeah.
and I think that would have been bad. Instead, she attempts to say nothing, like, "I don't think I could do it." She gets pushed to try anyway. She could have stood firm, like, "No, I'm not gonna try." I think that also would have looked bad, so she gives it a try. She knows for a couple people, she's like, "I don't know a name, but I know this fact that you've told me about them." And in the end, she looks bad, but not as bad as it could have been. And then every other question, I thought, like there were some times when Sophie got asked a question first. I think it was like, what was your role in your alliance?" And Savannah could have been like, "I disagree with what Sophie said. This is really what it is." But I think she kept it cool and it's like, "Yeah, I think I agree with Sophie. I was a challenge beast, and this is why you should care that I was a challenge beast too." Because I think sometimes people have a negative connotation to challenge beast. They'd be like, "Oh, all you are good at is challenges. Who cares about challenges?" Sometimes you get that from jurors, so it is risky to kind of double down on that. But she made it work for her, so
She did.
I thought pretty good at Final Tribal
Yeah, and I
to
think
end.
she kinda twisted it in terms of she was doing this to also protect her teammates, protecting one of the people in the final 3. And she stayed true, and I it was interesting when she was like, "I would have pulled in the 2 people I worked together to be in the final 2, like, I wouldn't have made the 2 people I worked together do fire," you know? So it's kinda like a little jab at Sophie
Yeah.
here, which was funny.
That was so surprising. What did you think of we didn't really get this the whole season about how loyal Savannah was gonna be, but I guess that's on us for kind of making assumptions. She never claimed she was gonna betray anybody. We might have just assumed that
No.
she would do what's in her best interest until the very end, which is probably gonna mean getting rid of Rizzo and Sophie before the end. But in the but no, I mean, she's more like Joe from last season or any of your stereotypical challenge beasts, or it's like all loyalty to a fault type of player.
Well, yeah, I mean, I never had that sort of I didn't have that opinion about her just because like I recognize that most of what we're hearing about her are other people's perceptions about her rather than what she herself is speaking about. Are there things where yes, she does come across as selfish at times? Yes, but she stuck with her group till the end. Like that was like we're seeing that she's not stabbing them in the back. She could have distanced herself from Rizzo like while she was winning challenges because she's like, okay, like, he's got the idol. He in a way can serve as a shield for me. She stuck with him. So it's like I agree with you. I think she had a strong final showing. I thought Sophie as well also had a strong final showing. I was making the remark that honestly, like I could see Sophie take some votes away from her and Sophie could end up winning this, but we all recognize, like, if Savannah is making it to the final 3, Savannah's definitely going to be winning this. She's just kind of done the most. And on the topic of the Kristina question, can I just say that, like, that was probably one of the worst jury questions that I've heard from, like, all the seasons that I can remember. I don't, like, that felt so targeted. And my takeaway wasn't even that, like, oh, this makes Savannah look bad. It was just like, what exactly is this supposed to prove? Like, if I'm trying to judge if this person is worth winning $1 million for everything that they've endured for like the 30 plus days that they've been on an island. I'm gonna fault them for not remembering like my cousin's name or something. Like that's just such a weird thing to fault someone for.
I think I called it rude in the moment.
It definitely felt that way. It just felt super targeted and unnecessary.
That being said, if like ultimately what it's saying is it's criticizing your social game and calling you fake is essentially what that is. If there was enough people who felt hurt by Savannah in a way of like she pretended to be my friend, but clearly she was all lies. This could have been a killer for Savannah. Like if they're like, because she could, if she lost a couple more votes, then we could have a different winner or a tie or something. Um, it seems that no one was as hurt as Kristina, and maybe it's because actually Savannah wasn't trying to be friends with a lot of people, which usually is a criticism, but maybe it saved her here. Like the more people you try to be friends with, the more they're gonna be hurt by being betrayed. But if you weren't actually friends with them, then they expected you to be against them, so they might not hold hard feelings then.
I mean, I think that's real, right? Like some people just like to befriend everyone, but like there's people who just, you're meeting all these random people, you're trying to win the game. You might not be focused on these other relationships if you're just trying to save your hide, and eventually you become the constant target for everyone. Like there's only so much you could say to people who have a preset mind about you without coming across as fake, right? So like you got to question, like, is it worth the effort to like have to do that if they're ultimately like, if they might not even believe what I'm saying, if I'm already seen as a threat, right? So I look at it like from outside the scope of how the game is played. And to me, it's like, I'm not faulting her for that. I think that, she's, whatever she's doing is obviously working strategically. The alliance that she has with Rizzo and Sophie's not being challenged. So if it's not broke, like, you don't need to do anything to try to like overcorrect something that's not a problem.
One criticism though is if maybe she had been more, I guess friendly is the word I'm gonna use, in the beginning of the game, there would be less reason for Sage and Jawan to even betray them in the first place. So that's the flip side. If you're very obvious about boxing people out, then you're opening the door for what would end up happening to happen. So,
Yeah, that's fair.
there's pros and cons to everything. You can't be perfect necessarily, so you just gotta be able to adapt to what you set yourself up with.
True.
Um Now, Ange, at any point during Final Tribal, did you think that Sophie was building any momentum? Because I thought similar to Savannah, like a lot of her answers seem to be doing good work too.
I do see that. I think Sophie did a good job in terms of like her story was I started from the bottom. I literally am the only one alive in my tribe for the longest time. There was only two of us when we had our little switcheroo, and I played like I was a little lost puppy. But I think a lot of it though, in the end of the day, although she has this story, her having this like started from the bottom, now we're here story is all because of someone that's sitting right next to her. So it kinda takes away from that accomplishment. She talks about, like, her social game, and that's what made, like, this trio, like, her so important, but, maybe I've forgotten, but I didn't find it that impressive because in the end of the day, I think, like I think she has a point where, meanwhile, like, they all had their own thing in the trio. Hers was the social game. That is good where she kinda knew what was going on. She knew when someone was gonna be in trouble, part of her alliance, and able to tell them. But I'm also like, were people not aware they were a trio? Like, it felt, like, very obvious to me, and when we're watching, but maybe when we are in the game, like, you're in it, you don't see it as much. I just find a lot of her accomplishment that she did talk about ended up giving an homage to Rizzo and Savannah.
Yeah, hers was tough because even because what she's saying makes sense. You're right. Like if everyone wants to get out Rizzo and Savannah, and even you to an extent, but they're focused on them, it's hard for them to go talk to somebody, to go talk to Steven to try to develop some other plan, because it's like Steven's gonna think that they're lying. But Sophie is not as attached to them. They're like, well, she just joined their group like yesterday, so she might actually want to flip, and therefore she actually can have a meaningful conversation and take it back to them. I think that's valid. But the problem is that even in Final Tribal, Savannah has a clear example of the same thing without Sophie's help, which is um, the other Sophie willingly going to Savannah to tell them about Jawan and Sage about to flip. So unfortunately for Sophie, her enemy here at Final Tribal has a counterexample of like, you helped, but I was good at that too. So that was the problem there. But I don't think I don't think anything went wrong though. Like none of her answers I think hurt Sophie's chances. Um, the only other thing available to her, I actually forget if Jeff allows this anymore, but Sophie did have a comment as if you are allowed to. She could have given away her immunity necklace and put herself in fire to try to make a statement. That's probably the only other option available to her. But in that situation, maybe if she does that and faces Savannah and gets her out, and now she's facing Rizzo and Sage, maybe that's enough.
Yeah, I'd say so.
But unknown. It's and obviously it's dangerous because you might just lose fire making too. And Rizzo, the struggle you have against Savannah is going to be a similar struggle against Rizzo. I do wish we got Rizzo in the final though, because I
Oh,
just want
me
to find
too.
out if they respected him or not. Because I was so curious,
Mm.
because he is a top strategic player in this season. But did his antics do too much damage, and or like where people are just bitter and like, you know what, I don't want to see him win. I don't want to see him rewarded. And now we really won't know that for sure. Uh, but um, that leaves Sage. Sage, unlike the other two, I don't think was perfect at Final Tribal. There were good answers, but then I think mixed in with some missteps as well.
Yeah, she definitely felt the weakest. It felt like, for example, her question that came from Steven, it felt like she didn't understand the question properly, where he was just questioning what her motives were when post-merge she was part of the majority group, and you're looking at the group that's part of the minority making it as far as they did. And for us, the viewers, it's even more kind of odd, considering one of the people in the minority were one of the people she wanted to target from the get-go. So, like, her explaining away her strategy behind that felt more like a defense mechanism rather than like an honest response to, this is what the strategy was, this is where my head was at, and this is how I did what was best for my game. It felt more defensive than what he was asking, and it didn't feel like she was properly understanding the question.
She just didn't elaborate enough. I think there's a timeline where if Sage like breaks it down step by step, I understand the vision, and I'm like, okay, I can get behind it. But she didn't really. She listed out a bunch of points, but didn't provide any supporting details for any of them. For example, she does say like, I didn't vote for you, Steven, instead of Savannah or Rizzo or anyone or Soph. I didn't do that at random. I did it because you were the biggest threat. But then does not follow up with why he's a bigger threat and then how she was going to deal with the other threats. Um, I think it's implied in her answer that she explained that she did not stick with the bigger group of 7 because she'd be at the bottom of that. But A, she doesn't spell that out, and B, she doesn't follow up with, and after I flip, this was how I planned to be in a position to win. She also didn't include that. So um that was disappointing. And she was already coming in kind of as the underdog here. So she really needed a perfect performance at Tribal, I think, to usurp either Sophi or Savannah. I did like her thesis was basically I project this like aloofness and someone who's not heads not in the game, but actually I was always thinking about it and always strategizing, and I'm gonna cite my occupation, like military intelligence and these type of things as evidence of that. But again, then doesn't if that's gonna be your centerpiece of why I should win, then you should be explaining all these strategies, and I think she just fell short of that.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it just felt like the one vote she did end up getting ended up just being a pity vote. And if you could guess who it came from, obviously it would be coming from Jawan.
Yeah, I don't know if it's probably you would just say strong enough social game to get someone to vote for you against their better judgment. And that's valid. And any vote you get at Final Tribal is valid. Just like however you win the game, by default, you are the deserving winner because that jury voted for you. So
I
um
would agree with you. It's the reason I'm just saying that is because Jawan himself had mentioned that it's like a heart over head decision, implying it's not one that would make most sense to people if you're using your head. This is more just coming from the heart.
by the way, I wouldn't want to hear that if I'm stage two. I'd be like, well, wait a minute. So you
It's
don't think I deserve
true.
it?
Yeah,
That's
that's what
true.
I'm saying. It's just like so it comes across more as just like the way I look at it is it's good to see that they actually had three women make it to the end. That was pointed out a couple times.
Mhm.
So, you know, Jawan was obviously closest to Sage. He's is what we're saying that like, a lot of his emotions and a lot of his drive came from playing that game and what he felt was best in his heart. And sometimes like he wouldn't be making maybe what was the wisest decision. And it's not just him. Like I felt Sage did that too. So they connected with each other for a reason. And Sage mentioned during the season that she also kind of connected with Steven as well. She felt that she's quirky. She felt that she could connect to someone like Steven, who also described himself as quirky. So, no offense to her. It's just, I'm just pointing out that like Jawan himself admits that like, yes, it's a heart over head decisions. And that's why I went with her.
Let's then. Well, actually, Ange, you have anything to say on that, or can we move forward?
No, well, my quick question is when Sage revealed what she did, like, before she was here and all that, were you, as a jury, are you impressed that she hid it the entire time? Like we always have this thing where people has this big reveal. Eva is like, I'm a student, I'm a PhD candidate. Like I actually was like this. I'm not just this, or Kyle with I'm a lawyer that does this. And was this impressive to you guys? Was this something where you're like, okay, I wasn't really impressed and I wasn't going to vote for you, but now you tell me this, might vote for you now.
Uh, okay, so I was putting myself in the jury's shoes. I am impressed when she says that, and then I'm listening intently, like, oh, okay, so she's saying like she was under the radar from the strategizing from the shadows. All right, what did she do? And then I would have been let down by her inability to fully break down all the strategy. So I think it successfully grabs my attention, but then you got to follow through.
Right. It like you have to be able to explain how you incorporate that into your game. It's one thing to just say, okay, you don't understand the side of me. But then like, okay, like how does it affect your game? If I'm someone who's voting for you, how exactly does that influence how my vote for you should be changed? If you come in and kind of like Kyle, where it's like, I don't, from what I recall, he didn't reveal that he's like a lawyer. And then in the end, he talks about, oh, I do this. And like, he does a better job of incorporating that into his answers, how it affects his game, how he thinks about things. Like, if you do it something like that, like how it, like, it helps you survive in this game, then yeah, there's definitely something to be said about that. But if you're just kind of saying it for bluster, then it's just fluff. Like it doesn't really add anything.
Agree 1,000%, and if anything, I was like she was kinda consistently saying how, like, "Oh, I use this, I analyze, I look, and I see this, and I take this person out." I'm like, "But you didn't read the room in regards to who is gonna beat you in the final 3." I feel like in my mind, I'm just like, "Wait, I just feel like you didn't read it well, actually. If you read it well, you wouldn't have went from a majority to a minority, like, you put yourself in a situation to need to fight in the final 5, you know? Like, this didn't have to happen, but you put yourself into that situation, and I don't know. And then to for
Yeah,
me, it's
that's
like
that's
yeah.
that's well put. I think I was trying to think of how so cleared my mind. So now I have a good opinion on Sage. It's She claimed she did what was best for her, which was not sticking with the huge majority alliance of 7 people. But they're on the jury are pointing out, but in the end, you didn't get yourself to a different majority. Like, you actually ended up being in the minority later on
Mhm.
instead. Whereas it would have been perfectly fine if, like, when the dust settled, it was like her, Kristina, and Sophi were like a 3-person alliance by the end of it and have control of the game at the end. Well, then clearly her actions led her to being in the majority at the end. And so she's being criticized for that not being the case. So that makes sense to me now.
I think
Um,
if there's something surprising to me about the military background, it actually works to her detriment because I would be wondering, like, why isn't she more competitive in challenges? Right? Like, if you've grown up in that sort of lifestyle, I would imagine you've gone through rigorous training, you're disciplined. No matter how many years removed you are from that, someone like that is mentally strengthened, tough, but you're in this game, you're one of the more emotional people. You're also struggling in a lot of these challenges. There was one challenge where, like, it's an endurance challenge where she held her own, but you're losing to, like, Savannah, or you're losing to, like, Steven.
She, like, even asked for Savannah to lose for her. Like, that was, like I just
Oh,
don't
don't remind me. That's
it
just
just gives me so
yeah.
much cringe, and then, like, she also made it seem like she put herself to be, like, this awkward, this person that's cry, that's emotional, but this was all not a facade, you know? Like, "I'm not like this outside," you know? "I was this and this and that," which is again, I'm not saying it's not impressive, that's really impressive. However, a part of me feel like, was that a facade or that was you? You could be both, you don't have to be one or the other.
yeah, I guess this is the risk of planning a big reveal at the end because now you only have a little bit of time to sell whether you're lying or it's the truth to sell that this is like what you've been doing all along. Whereas Savannah, like at final tribal, she's projecting this like I was in it for me, myself, and I attitude. Now consider that could all be lies. Like she could have been like, what approach should I take? I'm gonna take this approach and I'm just gonna make that my thing. However, even if it was a lie, it matches what she's presented the entire season. So that means it's believable. And obviously, if it's the truth, it's gonna be believable because is also the what she's been presenting. So like that lines up really good. She set herself up for success. Sage has made it harder for herself, not impossible, but it was a bigger challenge, I think, at the end for her to come through. But we should go through kind of the final 5 and final 4 of it all. Um, Final 5, their reward slash immunity challenge was this very multi-stage obstacle course that ends with having to climb this ladder, get your puzzle pieces up, and do the puzzle. It also involves searching for an advantage back at camp. This type of thing is common nowadays. We probably saw it in 47, 48. Um, and it is Sophi that finds that challenge advantage up in a tree, so she's able to get it down. So nice for Sophi. Um, did you have any thoughts on how useful that advantage was, or did it just like fade into the background?
You know, she didn't do so hot, so it kind of fade into the background. I actually, again, my hatred of mud is still there, so I kinda got fade in the background because of all the mud that was going on.
Yeah, that advantage is really depends on the performance of the person because it gives you an advantage for part of this obstacle course you're doing, and unfortunately for us watching, Sophie, I'm pretty sure had the worst start. So she was like in last as she was coming back and recovering. So yeah, it saved her some time and helped her get to the puzzle at the very end and at least made that aspect a little competitive. But it didn't like it wasn't like one of those advantages which just gives you some sort of immediate win. It's something where you still have to work towards that win.
These are always so tough because, like, imagine the advantage was, um, skip the mud or, like, skip one of the segments. That is clearly useful, but it threatens it being too useful. People might complain like, "Oh, well, this advantage was so good, it made the whole like 10 minutes of TV time useless because of course she's gonna win." But then when she doesn't win, it's like, well, why do we spend that time looking on TV looking for the challenge the advantage if it wasn't even gonna help her win? And it's a catch-22, and it's tough. I think in the moment, it seemed like a fair advantage, but that's all, like, so subjective, and there's no real criteria for what's fair and what's not fair. Um, honestly, I don't even need this thing that tends to happen nowadays at Final 5 where there's an advantage to find.
Yeah.
It's
Agreed.
it's not adding value, but it is potential. Like, imagine, and I guess this is the case, like, we have one clear challenge beast in Savannah here. This does throw a wrinkle in to change it up for us viewers. Like there probably are people that were sick, maybe even you two, that are sick of Savannah winning all the time. So this would potentially help prevent that from happening. Now, of course, Savannah powers through and actually wins anyway, but she could have lost.
Yeah, this was one of those challenges where I really felt for Christina. She landed awkwardly not just once, but twice during the challenge.
Oh yeah.
And it just like the first drop, like as she's covered in mud and sliding down the slope, it looked like she might have like torn her like ACL or something. Like she landed really awkwardly on her feet.
I know, that looked
And,
rough.
and yeah, I mean, she immediately like yelped out, but then followed it by saying like, I'm okay. And then again, you're still again covered in mud and she's on this barrel and just trying to use rope to kind of move it along. And again, lands awkwardly, and I think her head actually hits part of the barrel as she falls. So, like, I saw this challenge, and I'm like, is she okay? Like, do they have to look at her? Like, this is a little concerning.
Yeah, the falling off the barrel, that looked nasty. I was like, "Oh, she's done on this challenge. That's it." Um, she continues, which hopefully what happened is the challenge ended, and then they had someone check her for, like, a concussion after that. Um, and then she was fine, so it didn't make TV. So I'm hoping that's the series of events that transpired, because that fall off the barrel, and I was thinking it the whole time, because this is like you're standing on a barrel like in a cartoon, but you're holding on to a rope in front of you and to help stabilize you as you pull yourself forward and balance on it. Um, but I was just thinking like, okay, so if even though you're holding onto the rope, if your center of gravity goes too far backwards, then you're just you're just gonna fall off the barrel completely. Or what happened is she kind of compensated too much and then slipped forward, and then yeah, the back of her head seems to hit the barrel. So that was tough. Hopefully, all is well. But so Savannah wins, takes Sage to the sanctuary for some steak, carrot cake, and all that stuff. Where Savannah probably does the what makes sense, like get some jury points in case Sage ends up on the jury, be nice to her. Um, the other three back at camp. See, the problem is like you're there. So Kristina, Sophi, and Rizo, they can't really have a proper strategic discussion because the only person to talk about is Sage, because there's the three of them, and then you can't vote for Savannah anyway. So that kind of makes the conversations useless until Rizzo and Sophi talk alone, and they're debating between Kristina and Sage. And this is probably the most shocking thing of the whole finale,
Yeah.
is that it will turn out that as they're debating between them, it's Savannah who feels strongly that they should get out Kristina. Kristina, who for weeks we've said has like no chance to win and therefore would be great to sit with at the end, and yet are who at that point seem like a top, maybe the top strategic player, like if you're comparing with Rizzo and her, is making this what felt like a very non-strategic move. Especially the first reason she brings up was the basically like the alliance. Like what she's telling Sage is like, I want to be with us, and I want people who deserve to be there at the end, which is a nice thing to say, but is usually why people lose when they act on that strategy. Later, she will point out that uh, they think Kristina would be great at fire making, and so it would be dangerous to open the possibility of having to face her in fire making. So when the dust settled, when everybody got to explain their thoughts, are you comfortable with everyone's decision to target Kristina instead of Sage?
No, I think that was the wrong move. I think this is where both Sophi and Rizzo misplayed, because I can see from Savannah's point of view why they need to get rid of Kristina. Like, forget the final three for a second. You have to win the next challenge, and we can't just assume because Savannah's winning challenges that she's going to win the next challenge. You just can't assume that. So if you just go in and assume that, okay, anyone's capable of winning, there's chances that, okay, if I don't win this, I very likely could be going to fire making against someone else. And who do I have the best chance of beating? Probably have a chance against Sophi, probably have a chance against Sage, probably have a chance against Rizzo. Who I don't feel confident against is someone who I know is good at making fires, who is Kristina. So like from Savannah's point of view, that makes sense. I just don't understand the logic there for Rizzo and, Sophi to conform to that plan, because for them, they could make a group decision to say, okay, like whoever essentially as long as Savannah doesn't win the challenge, whoever is left remaining, like we'll just send her to fire making against Kristina, and Kristina could end up eliminating her there, and we took care of the biggest threat in the game so far. So from that standpoint, it didn't make a lot of sense why they kept Sage and got rid of Kristina. She's not a threat at the end of the game, but she gives you the benefit of eliminating someone like Savannah because she has the highest chance of doing that during fire making.
Yeah, I think that was such a miscalculation. For Savannah, I guess it worked out, but like at that moment, you could see that like Savannah was like the person that dictated what's the next move. She's like, why? Like you would really do that? Like she gets so like defensive when they were not agreeing, and they talked about it, like they've been voting together this entire time. They talk about it, they vote together, all moves are done together. I feel like in Rizzo and Soph's point of view is like, if I want to win $1 million, Savannah cannot be one of the top three people. Like she cannot be there. And if I knew, like honestly, knowing that, if Kristina is actually good at fire, screw it, do it. I mean, in the end, if Savannah has a chance of not winning, she would be the one being picked to do fire. It would make sense. So she and Kristina can do fire. Kristina, who is known to be good at fire, can take Savannah out, and and the person that like made that play took out the biggest players and has a higher chance. Like there is no, in my mind, it just feels like having Sage in. I feel like Sage is a better strategic player compared to Kristina. Kristina has no strategic player. Like I feel like Kristina would have been in the jury with just smiles and sweetness, which is amazing, but also it's not winning. It is not a winning. She would not have given a winning speech, so I wouldn't be scared being with Kristina in top 3. So okay, let's do it. Versus I would be a little worried about Sage, although like in the retrospect, I guess not that worried. But I would be worried about Sage more than I would be worried about Kristina, and then Kristina can use to take out Savannah. I'm up already. I feel like if Rizzo had that, let's say like at that moment, Sophi won. I feel like Sophi I mean, we can say all we could do all night about what ifs and buts, but let's say the final 4 was switched over where, um, Sage went home and it was Kristina. I really think that well, maybe not, but I think if I was Sophi, I would put Savannah and, Kristina together so then they could take out Savannah, because I think she has a higher chance of beating Rizzo than beating Savannah.
That's an interesting hypothetical because there's there's just two things. There is who is the number one threat? Savannah. And the most likely way to get her out is Kristina. So that makes sense. On the other hand, if Savannah wins that, now I have to face up against Rizzo and Savannah. So that's not great. So she might, in that time, she might have actually still made it Rizzo versus Savannah, so at least one of the big threats gets voted out. But you got options. So I agree that it seems like for Sophi and Rizzo, it should have, all things being equal, it should have been keep Kristina. Because actually, conventional thinking says that even if Savannah wins immunity, Savannah should want Kristina to be with her at the end. So therefore, you're not even have to worry about what Savannah's talking about and facing Kristina in fire, because she won't be, because she'll be taken if Savannah wins, and if you yourself wins, then you can make up your mind. If you, I mean, you're not in fire in that case, and you can decide what you want to do. So yeah, I agree. It continues along like a list of misplays by Sophi. That's very disappointing, because it did feel like the tools were there. There was a path, because her story at Final Tribal was the right one, and it made perfect sense. If she could have just coupled that with having taken control of the game at the end, she could have won this.
Yeah. And her story was like in the final, I don't know, 7 or 7 people. Her thing is, I've been working with these people for this long. They've been my day ones. Like, I know, like, we're going to be best friends outside of this, but I cannot be with them in final 3 because I'm going to be third place and I need to take them out. But she never did it. Like, every single time she's just like, "Oh, I should do this, but I don't." Like, every time there is opportunity, there were so many opportunities to take certain people out, to take, like, her like, to take the people that were gonna be the um gonna be more strategic than her and get more votes than her, but she doesn't do it. She only talks about it. It's a consistent, like, my heart, my brain, my grandma telling me I should just take them out. $1,000,000 is more important than the friends you make in 26 days, but she doesn't do it. And it's a very frustrating as a viewer, I feel like, to hear that consistently in her confessionals. It is like her consistent story, yet she never made it happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think she had a very clear pathway to actually win here, and just giving Savannah that lifeboat just flipped things around. The way I look at it, it's like the votes that were revealed to us. Jawan voted for Sage, revealed it was more of an emotional decision. Kristina voted for Sophi, which I was a little surprised by that. MC voted for Sophi. Well, I'm not surprised by that. I'm surprised by Alex actually not voting for Sophi, but I think he might have just been captivated by Savannah. And so, like, the way I look at it, like, Kristina just did not seem like she wanted to vote for Savannah. And
Yeah, they don't like each other.
if we're just looking at, like, the one other person who got a vote that wasn't Savannah, it would have been MC voting for Sophi. I don't remember fully what her logic was, but I would assume it's better than the other two's. Savannah very easily, like, if you're just looking at this realistically, could have sweeped, right? Like, she was just a much bigger threat. And the fact that they're giving her these chances to make it to the end, that speaks volumes. Even like the fire making, we had aspects where Savannah was not confident in her fire, whereas person she's up against, Rizzo, is. So it's setting up the storyline that, like, oh, okay, like, she's in under her head. She's not feeling confident. She might be out of it. She could get eliminated here, only for Rizzo to be the one to falter. she sets up a flame, and not only that, but, like, she does it quickly. Like, it doesn't seem like she's inexperienced, and it's not even like it looked like, oh, she's just lying to the cameras. She was saying that, like, behind the scenes too, so it's like it just worked out for her, and it just makes her look more dominant than she's even been over the course of the season, which is saying something.
It's just another thing that when the moment called for it, Savannah stepped up. Which
Mhm.
is, I think,
Yeah,
why to it's like come full circle here is why I won't ultimately mind if it's Savannah on 50 because clearly like she is the standout character and the standout player from this
yes,
season. So if you want to say like who's representing our season, it makes perfect sense. And that's not always the winner. It so happens that this time it is the winner.
agreed.
But if she lost fire, I think I'd be saying almost the same thing, other than she should have practiced more at home fire. Uh,
Yeah. If Rizzo comes back, he needs to practice on his puzzling.
yeah, Rizzo is pretty disappointing in challenges of all kinds,
I
so
Yeah.
he'll need to work on that.
I don't know if it's just me. I feel like Rizzo's had his moments, but I feel like he gets overhyped. Like he very easily could have lost the very first challenge he was part of with Alex just because Alex choked really hard. Normally, if you have someone who's even halfway decent at puzzles, Rizzo would have lost that. Most of the challenges, like, has Rizzo even won a challenge, like an individual challenge? Like,
No.
he's had the strategic game, but
Not an individual challenge, and maybe I don't think so, but there's stats for this.
yeah, so, like,
Let's
don't get me
see.
wrong, like, I think Rizzo's played a good game, but it's like, I feel like it's overstated. I feel like if you're just looking at what he's doing, kind of like we're saying that people are misplaying here or there, he stands to benefit from it the most because he's had an idol for most of the season, and yes,
Yeah.
part of it has been his strategy, but a lot of it is just people are just taking their eyes off the prize a lot of the time, and he
Honestly,
himself, if he
yeah.
wasn't with Savannah, I gotta wonder, like, how long he would last.
I also wonder if he comes for 50, I think it's gonna be so different. Like, I kinda it's interesting because I'm assuming the people that make it for 50 are the ones that made a far, made a big splash, or, made something, but I feel like depending on the crowd, I don't think Rizzo would last long. I
No,
feel like Rizzo get chewed out very quickly.
he's been terrible at puzzles. Like, I joked about, like, Alex, but, like, Rizzo himself has not been good at puzzles. Like, majority of the puzzles we've seen post-merge, his strategy is just a bit to look at someone else's puzzle,
Which is
and
terrible.
you're like, "Okay, you do it once, like, and if it's working, sure." But he employed that same strategy in every single challenge, and it's like, is that the winning play, that, like, just falling back on what someone else is doing?
Yeah, I think Rizzo would argue I would have done even worse if I hadn't done that. So basically, he's like F tier in puzzles and maybe F tier in challenges overall. I mean, the biggest thing, honestly, is he managed to be in the majority alliance at the beginning of the game, which is how most people survive the pre-merge. So that
I
was step
will
one, and then he found himself in a situation where he needed to stay with uh uh Sophie and Savannah because otherwise they're doomed.
yeah.
But other players would have risked it. They would have been like, "I'm jumping ship. I'm gonna sell out my allies. I'm gonna try to join this giant alliance." So he chose to stick with them. He found the idol, and his biggest claim to fame is gonna be manipulating the entire crowd of people post merge to never actually vote for him at fear he would use his idol. And at the end of the day, doing it every single vote, I'm giving him points for that. Like if he does it a couple times, you could say like it's a fluke, but he did it every single time and didn't get any votes any of those times.
I think
I
yeah,
mean, that's excellent.
I think after his first fake out, like when his second fake out came, I was over it. I was like, okay, this is just other people being stupid rather than what he's doing. But like where I do 100% give Rizzo credit is I'm thinking of his play in terms of how he drove the vote to get Alex out. He called into question that, hey, he's playing both sides. He's kind of being in the middle. He was part of the reason that Alex got eliminated. On top of that, like calling into question the threat level for Steven, part of what led Steven to getting eliminated. He was guessing like, what his advantages could be. And while he wasn't correct, the fact that he was able to piece things together and make a pretty educated guess, that's what I attribute to like, to his strategic thinking. And yes, initially like the first two nights that he had his idol did not need to use it. Those are smart. But I think eventually like with the idol, it's like people are just like losing sight of like how the threat level is kind of changing here.
I would credit him too for Savannah and Sophi they never even wanted to betray him to you. Because usually how this goes is you get to a point and then happens. And Sophi was a lot of talk, but no actions. Savannah was not even talk. She never considered going against him to the very end. So if Rizzo's social game was worse, eventually they'd be like, I don't need Rizzo anymore. Like, I'll just grab Kristina and I'll persuade her to be my ally, and then I'll easily beat her or something.
Right.
But something about the three of them, specifically Savannah and Rizzo, their social games to each other were excellent. So nice with them. I'm trying to think if there's anything we missed that we want to talk about here.
I will call out one other thing. I think that final challenge, lot of credit to Sophi. She actually came back and won that challenge. That was a challenge where it seemed like she was dead last and like pretty far behind. To the next challenge we didn't really talk about where, they're going in. There's a sort of kind of like not really like I'm trying to figure out how to describe this, but it's a relay puzzle kind of thing where you have to then guide this ball up to the middle, get the ball to unlock puzzle pieces that you put onto the board on this flat board surface. Essentially, once you finish the puzzle, it essentially turns into like a slide that you can, the balls that you got from like the previous thing that you lifted out of this cage. I know this is not making sense as I'm describing it, but the balls that you get out of the cage that you use to complete the slide puzzle at the very end that you essentially create yourself. So I thought it was interesting in that Savannah, once again, had an early lead in this. Looked like she was going to come away with the winner, potentially be breaking the record for most wins by a female contestant. And Sophi, from dead last, turned things around, got to the very end, got to the puzzle part of the challenge, and just dominated, just overtook everyone and made it to the final three off of winning that last challenge.
Yep, credit to Sophi, big clutch win as well. I guess the one thing with this challenge though is it was not a typical Final Four challenge. Typically the Final Four challenge is there's some spectacle to it. This felt like it could have been any individual immunity challenge, so I was a little bit surprised with that. It still proved to be exciting. It had that cool cage you mentioned where they have to like fiddle with these two sticks to get the ball out of the cage. Can like making the table maze as a puzzle was a cool twist as well. So I was just surprised it wasn't something more
simple.
It didn't stand out. Like this will be hard to remember because at the end of the day, it was a multi-stage obstacle course with not a block puzzle, but a puzzle, and then figure out the table maze. Whereas all the other Final Four challenges, it's really like only one or two aspects of it, so like it's easy to recall.
Yeah.
So we can finish close the book here on season 49 with I think I'm going to call this segment, So What Did We Learn? So we've gained a whole season's worth of knowledge on the game of Survivor. So is there something you're going to take away from this season, specifically in terms of strategy, like things that impact winning and not winning.
I I
Oof.
don't know if I've learned something new, but I would say maybe don't ever underestimate someone's drive to succeed because Savannah exemplified that this season. Moments
That
where
is
you
like
would think
a
that she was
fortune
out.
cookie answer. It's a
Yeah.
very generic F. I challenge you to focus up that lesson to something a little more specific.
Ooh.
I would,
Let me think. I I honestly would just I don't know if this is maybe really broad because I'm just gonna say, don't let them use the idol on like, don't let them, don't let the wolf like, the boy who cried wolf. Don't let the boy cry wolf. That's what I'm trying to say. Because it's kinda bad. It's a bad look on everyone else playing the game.
I agree with that. Like, don't like
Like,
if
once makes sense, twice is like,
yeah.
"Okay." 3? Like, are you serial? Like, that's where I'm like, "Sage, you didn't know how to read sheet. You didn't know anything." He was able to get away
And
with it
it
so many
didn't feel
times.
like a plan too. Like maybe if someone said, "I actually don't think Rizzo's gonna be a threat, so I'll sure let him keep his idol." Like if we got that storyline, it would have been different. But you're right. It kind of felt like we do want to get him out and get his idol out, but we'll do it eventually. This is like it's risky right now.
Yeah, and it's always every week became that. Like, I don't know, he has his idol still. It's like, "No, duh. No, duh. Why? Because nobody is willing to use, like, don't wanna do anything." It's like, ugh, just don't get it.
oh, actually, what I have noticed this season, which does set itself a little well, apart from what we've seen so far, I'm sure this isn't the case for every season of Survivor, is it doesn't seem like you need to be very likable to win, just because I would say that Savannah won, but she was polarizing. I wouldn't say that a lot of people would probably like her. So I mean, it just goes to show you that like your like I shouldn't say your personality doesn't matter, but like it matters less than I thought it would.
Mm. Or your game. But I also think yeah, I think I agree with that in terms of yeah, but do you guys find that Savannah is more unlikable than Sage was? Just generally, like, to the general jury, did you think majority enjoyed Sage or enjoyed Savannah? You know? As like, a person, not like a
It's
player per
hard to
se.
say. It's hard to say. Well, Savannah was more self confident, and I think she probably had a smaller group, whereas Sage probably would have been more broadly like she would have worked with like more people. So like with the jury, I'd probably give Sage the edge, but I don't know. I'm
Mhm.
just assuming. I can't
Yeah.
definitively say based on their reactions. Yeah.
I just feel like Sage's moves has made the jury unhappy, and Sage's, like, way of describing her play put a bad taste in the jury's mouth. So the only person that voted for her was her friend, Jawan, and that was it. That was her
And
only
also
friend.
her like important to point out, also the one person who had genuine strategic conversations with her too. So like Jawan would know better than anyone if Sage is BSing about this because he talked to her the most. Whereas everybody else, she might be she might be genuine that she used strategy, but I don't know. I'm having a hard time believing what she's telling me right now. So that could have also helped tip the scales too. Um,
I
I
also think
think.
yeah,
Sorry to just answer your
no.
question. I think that Sage probably had a version of betraying people. It's not quite the same as betraying your ally, but it's more like I thought we were gonna work with something, but you kept on denying like the overall plan, and I don't understand why. Whereas if kind of what we said before, Savannah never pretended to be other people's ally. At most, it's like on this vote we should work together. But she never had a different alliance, and therefore did not betray any alliance, including her real one.
Now that's to be respected. I think that her betrayal to Steven and her lack of making it make sense kind of to Steven for taking him out made her lose Steven as a vote. You know, like I feel like she's losing votes because when she was explaining on taking out Steven, it was like or like, oh, I was the one that got people to take you out, Sophie. And Sophie's like, that wasn't you. That's just everybody wanted to do that at the time. Like you weren't making moves. You were just following the status quo. So, so I feel like the more it was happening, the more she was betraying her old people, the more she was losing her votes. The graves of her past, was coming to get her.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Well, uh, winner picks. So unfortunately for you, Ange, your winner pick of Rizzo did not make it. Made it to fire making, but could not get to the end.
No, we made it far for not knowing what's going on. So, it's all good. Good games.
But your winner pick was Savannah, and thus you've done it. You
Yes.
have the winner. Congratulations.
I win by proxy. Yes. When can I expect my prize?
Well, if you're willing to risk it for the biscuit and kind of go double or triple or nothing here, we have an
Ooh.
upcoming season that would be very impressive should you predict. So maybe we'll kick it down the road here. But we'll
You
see.
mean season 50 or like are
Nope,
you
not
just
so. If you want to go for season 50, now that's something big. Yeah, I'm
Oh, I
willing
like
to
to
do
go
that
big
too.
and go home.
Oh, I
Okay,
like it.
Or
Like big
okay.
or
and
go home. I don't know
go.
why I said and go home. I'd like to be home while I'm going big. That's what I
You know
like to
what?
do.
Slay.
All right. Well, again, congrats, F. So the future of the podcast going forward until season 50. So we've got a backlog of several seasons coming out. So the next season you're going to see pop up is F and I going through season 46, as he had not seen that season. And then you will also see all of our reactions to season 15, Survivor China.
Ooh, it's a
Uh,
good one, guys.
and following that, you will see our reactions to season. Should I tell them? Yeah, I am gonna tell you guys because we're and the peek behind the curtain. We're almost done with 15. So what we're watching next is season 16, the very next season. Dun dun dun.
Looking forward to it.
Ooh.
Um,
Okay.
so we're doing some like chronological order stuff going on. Uh, and for listeners out there, once I've said this before, if you know, you know. And then after 16, we'll clean up. I think one more season to prep for season 50, and then anybody who we missed who's on 50, but we haven't watched their season yet, we're gonna have some special episodes where I give these guys just a little taste of what they're in store for. Like there will be some. I'll be spoiling a little bit of their seasons, or at least like one of their seasons, but with a focus on what that player did to be worthy of coming back for 50 at all. So that's what's in store all the way up leading into February when we will do season 50.
Love it.
So get hyped.
Woo woo!
Any last words on 49 that either of you have?
It's a good send off.
Yeah, I think it wrapped up in a way that made me good, made me content with what's happening. So I'm excited to go back in time, back into China for a bit. Excited to check out the next place and pumped for February.
Let's go. But all right, everyone, thanks for joining us on another season on the Island Life podcast. And join us next time as, like I mentioned, we'll be journeying into several seasons past on our road to season 50. But until then, and until we speak again,